The door creaked as I pushed it open, the weight of the world pressing against my chest like a storm about to break. I was 28, non-binary, and had spent years hiding behind baggy clothes and a carefully crafted mask of indifference. But tonight, something snapped. I walked into that bar alone, not knowing I'd leave with my heart cracked open and my fears stripped bare. Elliot stood frozen at the entrance of the Rusty Anchor, a dive bar tucked in the heart of Portland's eclectic Southeast District. The air was thick with the scent of spilled beer and cheap cologne, the kind of place where neon signs buzzed like promises and strangers' laughter felt like a dare. Their pulse thrummed in their ears, louder than the jukebox spitting out an old Springsteen tune. For years, Elliot had lived in the shadows of their own identity, dodging pronouns, avoiding mirrors, and shying away from any space that demanded they be something. But tonight, they'd made a pact with themselves: one drink, 1 hour, one chance to stop running. The bar was alive, a chaotic symphony of clinking glasses and half-shouted stories. Elliot's eyes darted across the room, landing on a man at the counter. He was maybe in his early 30s, with dark stubble framing a face that looked like it had seen both joy and heartbreak. His flannel shirt was rolled up to his elbows, revealing forearms that spoke of manual labor or maybe just a love for lifting weights. He sat alone, nursing a whiskey, but his presence seemed to anchor the room. Elliot's stomach twisted not with fear, but with something electric, something alive. They slid onto a stool a few seats away, their leather jacket creaking as they adjusted. The bartender, a woman with a buzz cut and a no-nonsense stare, slid a coaster their way. "What's it gonna be, hon?" she asked, her voice cutting through the noise. Elliot hesitated, their mind blank. "Whiskey." "Neat," they said, surprising themselves with the steadiness of their voice. The bartender nodded and turned away, leaving Elliot to steal another glance at the man. His name, they'd learn later, was Sam. Sam, 32, a carpenter with hands that could build a house or cradle a heart with equal care. He'd come to the Rusty Anchor every Friday for the past 6 months, not for the drinks, but for the hope that one night he'd find someone who saw him really saw him. Sam had grown up in a small Oregon town, where being gay was a secret you buried under football games and church pews. He'd moved to Portland to escape, to breathe. But even here, he carried the weight of old wounds. Tonight, though, something felt different. He felt eyes on him, not judgmental, but curious. He turned, and there was Elliot. Their gazes locked, and for a moment, the bar faded. Elliot's heart pounded, their minds screaming to look away. But they didn't. Sam's lips curved into a small, unguarded smile, and Elliot felt the air shift, like the first crack of thunder before a storm. "You look like you're carrying the weight of the world," Sam said, his voice low but warm, cutting through the din. Elliot blinked, caught off guard. "Maybe I am," they replied, their voice barely above a whisper. Sam slid over one stool, closing the gap. "Mind if I sit here?" he asked, his eyes searching Elliot's face for permission. Elliot nodded, their throat tight. They weren't used to this, someone noticing them, someone wanting to know them. "I'm Sam," he said, extending a hand. Elliot hesitated, then took it, their fingers brushing against calluses that told stories of hard work and resilience. "Elliot," they said, their name feeling like a confession. The conversation started slow, tentative, like two people stepping onto thin ice. Elliot shared that they worked as a graphic designer, always behind a screen, always safe. Sam talked about building furniture, about the satisfaction of turning raw wood into something lasting. But beneath the small talk, there was a current, a pull. Elliot felt it in the way Sam's eyes lingered, not with pity or judgment, but with a quiet understanding. Sam felt it in the way Elliot's guarded answers hinted at a story they weren't ready to tell. As the night wore on, the bar grew louder, but their corner felt like a sanctuary. Elliot laughed for the first time in months when Sam recounted a disastrous attempt at baking bread. Sam's heart skipped when Elliot's eyes lit up, their walls coming down just enough to let him peek inside. They talked about music, about dreams, about the weight of being different in a world that demanded conformity. "I spent so long hiding," Sam admitted, his voice raw. "Thought it'd get easier. But some days, it's still a fight." Elliot nodded, their chests tight. "I don't even know who I'm hiding from anymore," they said, the words slipping out before they could stop them. Sam leaned closer, his voice steady. "Maybe it's time to stop." The words hung between them, heavy with possibility. Elliot's breath caught, their mind racing. They'd come here to face their fear of being seen, but they hadn't expected Thea's a stranger who made them want to be known. By the time the bartender called last call, Elliot's whiskey was gone, and so was their resolve to stay guarded. Sam's hand brushed theirs on the bar, a fleeting touch that sent sparks through Elliot's veins. "Want to get out of here?" Sam asked, his voice a mix of hope and nerves. Elliot's heart screamed yes, but their fear whispered no. They looked into Sam's eyes, saw the same vulnerability they felt, and made a choice. "Yeah," they said, standing up, their legs shaky but sure. "Let's go." They stepped into the cool Portland night, the city alive with possibility. Elliot didn't know where this would lead, but for the first time in years, they weren't afraid to find out. The street outside the Rusty Anchor hummed with the pulse of Portland at midnight, neon signs flickering, distant laughter, and the faint strum of a busker's guitar. Elliot and Sam walked side by side, their shoulders brushing occasionally, each contact a quiet jolt that neither acknowledged but both felt. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of rain-soaked asphalt and possibility. Elliot's heart hadn't stopped racing since they'd left the bar. They stole glances at Sam, his profile sharp against the city lights, his hands stuffed in his pockets like he was trying to keep himself grounded. "Where are we going?" Elliot asked, their voice betraying a mix of curiosity and nerves. Sam grinned, a boyish spark in his eyes. "There's this all-night diner a few blocks away. Best pie in the city. You in?" Elliot nodded, their fear of the unknown wrestling with the thrill of this moment. The diner, a relic called Rosie's, was a beacon of fluorescent light in the dark. Its vinyl booths and chipped formica tables felt like a time capsule, the kind of place where secrets were spilled over coffee and grease. They slid into a booth by the window, the city's glow framing them. The waitress, a woman in her 50s with a smoker's rasp, didn't bat an eye at their late-night arrival. "Pie and coffee?" she asked, already scribbling. Sam nodded. "Apple for me." "Elliot." Elliot hesitated, then said, "Cherry. And coffee. Black." The waitress shuffled off, leaving them in a bubble of quiet. Sam leaned forward, his elbows on the table. "So, Elliot," he said, his tone playful but probing, "what made you walk into that bar tonight?" The question landed like a stone in still water, rippling through Elliot's defenses. They traced the edge of their coaster. "Buying time. I was tired," they said finally. "Tired of being invisible. Tired of being afraid." The words felt like a confession, raw and unfiltered. Sam's eyes softened, but he didn't push. "I get that," he said. "Took me years to stop looking over my shoulder, waiting for someone to call me out." Elliot's chest tightened. They'd spent so long dodging questions about their identity, crafting vague answers to avoid the truth. But here, with Sam, the truth felt safe. "I'm non-binary," they said, the words tumbling out. I've never said that out loud to a stranger before. Sam's smile was small, warm. Not a stranger anymore. Am I? He said, and Elliot's heart stuttered. The pie arrived, steam rising from golden crusts, and they ate in comfortable silence for a moment. Sam broke it first. I came out when I was 19, he said, his voice steady but laced with old pain. My dad didn't speak to me for 3 years. My mom tried, but she didn't get it. Still doesn't. Not really. He paused, twirling his fork. Moving here was supposed to be a fresh start. But some things follow you. Elliot listened, their own story clawing its way up. I grew up in a small town too. They said, Indiana. Everyone knew everyone. And I was different. Didn't have a word for it then. Just knew I didn't fit. They laughed. A bitter edge to it. I used to pray I'd wake up as someone else. Someone normal. Sam's hand twitched, like he wanted to reach out but stopped himself. You're not alone in that, he said. But you're here now. That's something. The conversation flowed, each revelation a thread weaving them closer. Elliot shared how they'd moved to Portland to escape, to find a place where they could exist without apology. Sam talked about his carpentry, how building things was his way of making sense of a world that often felt broken. They laughed over shared love-sold vinyl records. Rainy days. The way a good story could break your heart and mend it in the same breath. As the night deepened, the diner emptied, leaving them in a cocoon of their own making. Sam's foot brushed Elliot's under the table. Accidental, but electric. Elliot's breath caught, their body alive with a warmth they hadn't felt in years. You ever feel like you're waiting for permission to live? Elliot asked, their voice barely above a whisper. Sam's eyes locked onto theirs, intense and unguarded. Every damn day, he said. But tonight, I'm not waiting. The words hung between them, heavy with intent. Elliot's pulse raced, their fear and desire at war. They'd spent so long hiding, so long denying themselves the chance to feel. But Sam's presence, his quiet strength, made them want to leap. I don't know what I'm doing, Elliot admitted, their voice shaking. Sam reached across the table, his hand covering theirs. You don't have to, he said. Just be here, with me. The touch was a lifeline, grounding and terrifying. Elliot didn't pull away. They sat there, hand in hand, the world outside the diner fading. The waitress refilled their coffee, oblivious to the seismic shift happening in that booth. Elliot's fear was still there, but it was quieter now, drowned out by the possibility of something real. When they finally left Rosie's, the sky was tinged with the first hints of dawn. Sam walked Elliot to their apartment, a few blocks away. At the door, they stood close, the space between them charged. Can I see you again? Sam asked, his voice soft but sure. Elliot smiled, their heart lighter than it had been in years. Yeah, they said. I'd like that. As Sam walked away, Elliot leaned against the door, their skin buzzing. They'd walked into that bar alone, but they were leaving with something new hope. And maybe, just maybe, the courage to be seen. The next week passed in a blur, each day colored by the memory of Sam's hand on theirs. Elliot found themselves sketching absent-mindedly his jawline, the curve of his Smillian napkins, on the edges of their design drafts. They'd exchanged numbers that night at Rosie's, and now their phone buzzed with texts that felt like lifelines. Morning. Thinking of you. From Sam. Or a photo of a half-finished chair with the caption, This one's giving me hell. Elliot replied with quips about their own work, their fingers trembling with every message sent. Portland's autumn was in full swing, leaves crunching underfoot as Elliot walked to meet Sam for their first real date. They'd agreed on a bookstore in the Pearl District, A cozy spot called the Word Haven, stacked floor to ceiling with used books. Elliot arrived early, their nerves a tangle of excitement and dread. They wore a dark green sweater, their favorite, hoping it made them look more confident than they felt. The bell above the door jingled as Sam walked in. His flannel swapped for a navy button-up that made his eyes look deeper, warmer. "You beat me," he said, grinning. "Thought I'd be the punctual one." They wandered the aisles, their shoulders brushing as they pulled books from shelves. Sam handed Elliot a worn copy of Giovanni's Room, his fingers lingering on the cover. "This one gutted me when I first read it," he said. "Made me feel seen." "You know." Elliot nodded, their throat tight. They knew that feeling, the ache of finding a story that mirrored your own hidden truths. They picked up a poetry collection, flipping to a dog-eared page. "This one's mine," they said, reading a line about belonging to yourself. Sam listened, his gaze steady, and Elliot felt a warmth spread through them, like sunlight breaking through clouds. Over coffee at a cafe next door, they talked about everything and nothing: movies, music, the way Portland's rain felt like a friend. But the conversation kept circling back to the harder stuff. Sam shared how he'd lost friends when he came out, how he'd learned to build walls to protect himself. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm too much," he said, stirring his coffee. "Too loud, too honest." Elliot's heart ached. "You're not too much," they said. "You're enough. More than enough." Sam's smile was small, but it lit up the room. The date stretched into the evening, and they ended up at a park overlooking the Willamette River. The city lights danced on the water, and the air was cool, sharp. They sat on a bench, close enough that their thighs touched. Sam's hand found Elliot's, his fingers warm and sure. "I'm glad you walked into that bar," he said, his voice low. Elliot's breath hitched. "Me too," they said, and for the first time, they believed it. But doubt crept in, as it always did. Elliot's mind replayed old fears: rejection, judgment, the weight of being different. They pulled their hand away, just slightly, and Sam noticed. "You okay?" he asked, his voice gentle but firm. Elliot hesitated, then let the truth spill. "I'm scared," they said. "I've spent so long hiding who I am. What if I'm not ready for this? For us?" Sam didn't flinch. He turned to face them, his eyes steady. "You don't have to be ready," he said. "You just have to be you. I'll wait." The words cracked something open in Elliot. They leaned into Sam, their forehead resting against his shoulder. Sam's arms wrapped around them, strong and steady. And for a moment, the world was just them, two people finding each other in the chaos. The kiss came naturally, soft at first, then deeper, a promise and a question all at once. Elliot's fears didn't vanish, but they felt smaller, less suffocating. In Sam's embrace, they walked back to Elliot's apartment, hand in hand, the city alive around them. At the door, Sam kissed them again, slow and deliberate. "See you soon?" he asked, his voice hopeful. Elliot nodded, their heart full. "Soon," they said. As Sam disappeared into the night, Elliot stood there, their lips tingling, their fear quieter than it had ever been. They were falling, and for once, they weren't afraid of the landing. Weeks turned into months, and Elliot and Sam became a rhythm, a melody that neither had expected but both needed. They spent evenings at Sam's workshop, where Elliot watched him sand wood into smooth curves, his hands steady and sure. They spent mornings in Elliot's apartment, drinking coffee and arguing over who made better pancakes. Each moment was a brick in the foundation they were building, fragile but growing stronger. But life wasn't a straight line, and neither was their story. Elliot's fears lingered, surfacing in quiet moments. At a queer community event, they froze when someone asked their pronouns, the old panic clawing at their chest. Sam was there, his hand on their back, a silent anchor. "You don't owe anyone an explanation," he whispered later, as they sat on a park bench. Elliot nodded, but the doubt lingered. What if they weren't enough? What if they couldn't be the person Sam deserved? Sam had his own battles. A call from his mother brought old wounds to the surface. She still called his sexuality a phase, her voice dripping with hope that he'd come around. He didn't tell Elliot at first, not wanting to burden them, but the weight showed in his quieter moments. The way his smile didn't quite reach his eyes. When he finally opened up, Elliot listened, their heart breaking for the boy he'd been, the man he was still becoming. One night, they went to a drag show at a club downtown, the air electric with glitter and defiance. Elliot wore a binder for the first time in public, their chest tight, but their heart lighter. Sam couldn't stop staring, his eyes full of pride. "You're stunning," he said, and Elliot believed him. They danced, their bodies close, the music drowning out the world. But when a drunk patron slurred a comment about freaks, Elliot's confidence wavered. Sam stepped in front of them, his voice calm but firm. "Walk away," he said, and the guy did. Back at Sam's place, Elliot broke down, the weight of years of hiding crashing over them. Sam held them, his voice steady. "You're not alone in this," he said. "We're in it together." Their relationship deepened, each moment a step toward trust. Sam took Elliot to meet his chosen familia group of queer friends who welcomed Elliot with open arms. Elliot introduced Sam to their best friend, Mia, a trans woman who'd been their rock through their own coming out. Mia pulled Sam aside, her voice teasing but serious. "Hurt them, and I'll end you," she said. Sam laughed, but his eyes were earnest. "Never," he promised. But tension was brewing. Elliot's job was demanding, their designs under scrutiny from a boss who didn't understand their identity. Sam's carpentry business was struggling, a big contract falling through. They leaned on each other, but the stress seeped into their moments together. One night, after a long day, they argued about nothing, about everything. Elliot's voice cracked as they said, "What if we're moving too fast?" Sam's face fell, but he didn't back down. "I'm not going anywhere," he said, "but you need to decide if you're in this with me." Elliot left his apartment that night, their heart heavy. They walked the streets of Portland, the rain soaking through their jacket. They thought of Sam, of the bar, of the person they were becoming. The fear was still there, but so was something stronger: love, messy and real. They turned back, their steps sure, ready to fight for what they'd found. Elliot stood outside Sam's workshop, the rain dripping from their hood. The argument had left them raw, their words echoing in their mind. They knocked, their heart pounding, and when Sam opened the door, his face softened. "You're soaked," he said, pulling them inside. The workshop smelled of sawdust and varnish, a comfort that grounded Elliot. They stood there, dripping, as Sam grabbed a towel. "I'm sorry," Elliot said, their voice breaking. "I'm scared, but I don't want to lose this." Sam's hands stilled, the towel forgotten. He stepped closer, his eyes searching. "I'm scared too," he admitted, "but I've never felt more alive than I do with you." They fell into each other, the kiss desperate and healing, a promise to keep going. They spent the night talking, unraveling their fears, their hopes. Sam spoke of wanting a life where he could be open, unashamed. Elliot shared their dream of living authentically, without apology. By dawn, they were exhausted but whole, their bond stronger for it. The months that followed were a dance of growth and challenge. Elliot started therapy, working through years of internalized shame. Sam joined a local queer support group, finding solace in shared stories. They faced the world together, holding hands at pride events, ignoring the occasional stare, building a life that felt like theirs. But the world wasn't always kind. A client dropped Sam's business after seeing him with Elliot at a festival. The rejection, a sting that lingered. Elliot faced whispers at work, their identity a topic of office gossip. They leaned on each other, their love a shield against the noise. One evening, Sam took Elliot to a quiet spot by the Columbia River, a place he'd found during a tough week. The water was calm, the sky streaked with pink. He pulled out a small wooden box he'd carved, intricate and beautiful. Inside was a ring, simple but meaningful. "I don't know what the future holds," Sam said, his voice steady, "but I know I want you in it. No pressure, just a promise." Elliot's eyes filled with tears, their heart full. They didn't say yes or not, hey, just kissed him. The ring safe in their pocket, a symbol of possibility. Their life together grew, messy and beautiful. They moved in together, a small apartment filled with Sam's furniture and Elliot's art. They fought. They laughed. They loved. Elliot's designs started gaining recognition, their confidence growing. Sam's business stabilized, his work a testament to his resilience. They were building something, not just a relationship, but a life where they could both be seen. But the past wasn't done with them. A letter arrived from Sam's father, the first in years. It was short, formal, asking to meet. Sam's hands shook as he read it, old wounds reopening. Elliot held him, their presence a reminder that he wasn't alone. "Whatever you decide," Elliot said. "I'm here." Sam nodded, unsure but grateful. The letter sat on their table, a question mark in their shared space. Sam stared at the letter for days. Its words burned into his mind. "I'd like to see you. I'm trying to understand." He hadn't spoken to his father in years, not since the man had called his life a choice and shut the door. Elliot watched him wrestle with it, their heart aching but giving him space. "You don't have to decide now," they said one night, curled up on their couch. Sam nodded, but the weight was there, heavy in his silence. They kept building their life, finding joy in the small moments. Elliot painted a mural in their living room, a vibrant burst of color that made Sam smile every time he saw it. Sam built Elliot a desk, sturdy and perfect, a gift that made them cry. They hosted dinners with Mia and Sam's friends, their apartment filled with laughter and warmth. But the letter loomed, a shadow they couldn't ignore. One night, Sam made a choice. "I'm going to see him," he said, his voice steady but scared. Elliot squeezed his hand. "I'll go with you," they offered. But Sam shook his head. "I need to do this alone," he said. "But knowing you're waiting for me, that's enough." Elliot nodded, their throat tight. They kissed him, pouring all their strength into it, a silent promise to be his home. Sam drove to his father's house, a small place outside Salem. The man who opened the door looked older, grayer, but his eyes were the same sharp, guarded. They sat in the living room, the silence heavy. "I don't know how to do this," his father said finally. "I was wrong. I'm trying." Sam's chest ached, years of pain colliding with this fragile olive branch. They talked, haltingly at first, then more openly. His father didn't fully understand, but he was listening. And for Sam, that was a start. When Sam returned, Elliot was waiting, their eyes searching his face. He pulled them close, his voice breaking. "It wasn't perfect," he said, "but it was something." They held each other, the weight of the day lifting in their embrace. Elliot felt their own courage grow, inspired by Sam's. They started sharing their art publicly, their non-binary identity woven into their work. The response wasn't all kind, but the support, especially from Sam, made it bearable. Their love was a quiet revolution, a defiance of the world's expectations. They faced challenges: a lost job, a cruel comment, but they faced them together. Elliot's therapy helped them name their fears, and Sam's group gave him a community that understood. They were learning to live without apology, to love without fear. The seasons changed, and so did Elliot and Sam. Portland's winter brought gray skies and endless rain, but their apartment was a haven of warmth. They celebrated their first anniversary at the Rusty Anchor, where it all began. The bar was the same, neon buzzing, Springsteen on the jukebox, but they were different, stronger. They toasted to courage, to love, to the messy beauty of being seen. But life tested them. Elliot's boss fired them after a client complained about their controversial art, a mural celebrating queer identity. The rejection stung, but Sam was there, his arms a safe harbor. "You're bigger than that job," he said, his voice fierce. Elliot nodded, their resolve hardening. They started freelancing, their work gaining traction in queer spaces online. Each commission was a step toward owning their truth. Sam's business faced its own hurdles. A supplier backed out, leaving him scrambling. He worked late nights, his hands raw from sanding. But Elliot was there, bringing him coffee, reminding him to rest. They were a team, their love a steady anchor. But the biggest test came when Elliot got a call from their own family. Their mother, who'd never understood their identity, wanted to visit. "I'm trying," she said, echoing Sam's father. Elliot's heart raced, hope and fear colliding. They prepared for the visit together, Sam helping Elliot navigate their nerves. When their mother arrived, the air was thick with tension. She misgendered Elliot once, twice, then caught herself, her eyes apologetic. They talked, awkward but honest, about the years of distance, the pain of not fitting in. "I don't get it all," she said, "but I want to." Elliot cried, Sam's hand on their back, and for the first time, they felt a flicker of reconciliation. Their life wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. They marched in pride together, Sam's arm around Elliot, their faces painted with rainbows. They faced the world's judgment, but they also found its love friends, community, each other. Elliot's art became a voice for others, their murals a beacon of hope. Sam's furniture told stories of resilience, each piece a testament to his strength. As spring bloomed, they sat on their balcony, the city alive below. Sam pulled out the ring again, his eyes nervous but sure. "I'm not asking for forever," he said, "just for now, and every now after." Elliot laughed, tears in their eyes, and slipped the ring on. "Every now?" they said, and kissed him, the world fading away. The ring on Elliot's finger was a quiet promise, a symbol of the life they were building with Sam. It wasn't about marriage or conventions, it was about choosing each other. Every day, despite the world's noise, they moved through Portland's summer, their love a steady pulse. They danced at festivals, cooked dinners that burned, laughed until their sides ached. But the heart of their story was in the quiet moments, Sam's hand in Elliot's, Elliot's head on Sam's shoulder, the unspoken vow to keep going. The world still pushed back. Elliot's murals drew hate online, trolls spewing venom. Sam's business lost another client, the sting of prejudice sharp. But they fought back with love, with art, with resilience. Elliot's work found a gallery, their story told in vibrant colors. Sam's furniture was featured in a local magazine, his craft celebrated. They were carving out a space where they could exist, unapologetically. One night, they returned to the Rusty Anchor, the bar where it all began. The bartender, still with her buzz cut, grinned as they walked in. "You two again," she said, sliding them whiskeys. They sat at the bar, their knees touching, and toasted to the night they'd taken a chance. "I was terrified," Elliot admitted, their voice soft. "But you saw me." Sam's eyes shone. "And you saw me," he said. "That's all I ever wanted." They left the bar hand in hand, the city alive around them. In their apartment, they fell into each other, clothes scattered, laughter mixing with desire. The title of their story: I walked into a bar alone, but left without my underwear, or my fear of being seen, felt like a private joke. A truth only they understood. They'd shed more than clothes that night. They'd shed the weight of fear, of shame, of hiding. Their life wasn't a fairy tale, but it was real. They faced the world together, their love a defiance of anyone who said they couldn't be. Elliot's art inspired others, their non-binary identity a beacon for those still searching. Sam's work built homes, literal and metaphorical, for those who needed them. They were each other's safe place, their courage a gift they gave freely. As they stood on their balcony, the city glittering below, Elliot leaned into Sam. "We're doing this," they said, their voice steady. Sam kissed their forehead, his arms tight around them. "Yeah," he said. "We are." They'd walked into that bar alone, but they'd left with a love that made them fearless, a life that made them whole. And that, they knew, was the greatest victory of all.